Have you ever found yourself wondering why it feels like your days are packed with endless chores that seem more exhausting than fulfilling? You're not alone. As we get older, it's easy to feel like we need to do everything ourselves, holding on to routines and habits that might no longer serve us. Today, I want to talk about how to simplify your daily chores and household tasks. Whether you're 70 or beyond, life isn't about spending your precious time scrubbing, polishing, or rearranging endlessly. It's about finding the balance that works for you, so you have more time to relax, enjoy your family, or simply do the things that make you happy. In this video, we're going to go over 12 household tasks that you don't need to waste your energy on anymore. These are things we've been doing for years because we thought we had to. But guess what? We don't. I'll share some personal experiences, practical tips, and easy alternatives that will help you save time and energy while still maintaining a home that feels warm and welcoming. Now, before we dive in, I'd love to know, where are you tuning in from? Comment below and share your city. I always enjoy hearing from you. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more tips like these. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming up next. Let's get started, and together we'll figure out how to free up your time. Point 1. Deep cleaning windows weekly. Let's start with something many of us have spent countless hours doing: cleaning windows. Now, I know the satisfaction of seeing crystal clear glass can feel rewarding, but let's be honest. How often does someone walk into your home and say, "Wow, your windows are spotless"? Probably never, right? Yet, so many of us, myself included, have climbed ladders, wiped every corner, and spent hours on something that doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. I used to clean my windows every single week. Rain or shine, there I was with my spray bottle, rag, and ladder, determined to keep them spotless. But over time, I realized a few things. First, no one noticed whether my windows had a little dust or a few fingerprints. Second, climbing up and down ladders started to take a toll on my body. My knees would ache, and my arms felt like they'd been through a workout. And lastly, I realized that I was spending valuable time and energy on a task that could be done less frequently without any real impact on my life. So, I made a change. Now, I hire a professional cleaning service twice a year to do a thorough job on all my windows, inside and out. It's worth every penny because I no longer have to risk my safety or dedicate hours of my week to this task. And for the rest of the year, I let go of the need for perfection. If a window gets smudged, I'll wipe it with a cloth when I notice it. But I don't stress about it anymore, and guess what? My home still feels bright and welcoming. The lesson here is simple. Sometimes, it's okay to delegate or let go of things that don't truly matter. By adjusting how I approach this task, I've not only saved my time but also protected my health. Point 2. Scrubbing baseboards by hand. Let's talk about baseboards. Those narrow strips of wood that line our walls. They might seem like they're begging for attention, but are they really worth all the effort we put into them? I used to believe they were. I'd spend hours on my hands and knees, bucket of soapy water by my side, scrubbing every inch of those baseboards until they gleamed. I thought spotless baseboards were the mark of a well-kept home, but you know what? No one ever noticed. Not once did someone walk into my house and say, "Wow, your baseboards look amazing." Instead, they'd comment on the warmth of the room, the comfort of the furniture, or even the scent of freshly baked cookies. But baseboards? Never. So, why was I exhausting myself over something so minor? Eventually, I realized that my obsession with perfect baseboards was taking time away from things that truly mattered. My knees ached, my back hurt, and at the end of the day, all I had to show for it was something no one cared about. Not even me, if I'm being honest. Now, I've completely changed my approach. Instead of scrubbing my baseboards by hand, I use a long-handled mop or a Swiffer duster every couple of weeks. It's quick, easy, and keeps them looking tidy without all the strain. If there's a stubborn spot, I might grab a damp cloth and give it a quick wipe, but that's it. No more hours of scrubbing, no more sore knees. This change has been such a relief. My home still feels clean and inviting, and I've freed up time to do things that bring me joy, like reading a book, calling a friend, or just sitting with a cup of tea and enjoying the quiet. Point 3. Ironing bed sheets. Now, let's talk about something I used to do religiously: ironing bed sheets. Yes, you heard me right. I would stand there for what felt like hours, smoothing out every wrinkle on my bed sheets, determined to make them look as crisp and perfect as a luxury hotel's. It felt like the ultimate mark of a well-kept home. But looking back now, I can't help but laugh at how much time I wasted on something that didn't really matter. You see, I believed those neatly pressed sheets would somehow elevate the comfort of my bed or make a lasting impression on anyone who saw them. But here's the reality. The moment someone lies down, all that hard work disappears in an instant. Wrinkles are inevitable, and they certainly don't affect the quality of sleep or the warmth of your bed. One day, as I was wrestling with a fitted sheet, because let's be honest, ironing one of those is practically a sport, I had a moment of clarity. Why was I doing this? What was I really trying to achieve? That's when it hit me. Ironing bed sheets wasn't about necessity. It was about chasing perfection for no reason at all. So, I decided to stop. These days, when my sheets come out of the dryer, I give them a good shake, smooth them out as best as I can, and put them straight onto the bed. Are there a few creases here and there? Sure. But you know what? They're clean, soft, and inviting. And that's what really matters. Letting go of this unnecessary chore has been so freeing. I've gained back hours of my life, hours I now spend on things I actually enjoy, like taking a walk, catching up on a favorite show, or simply relaxing. And guess what? Not a single person has ever walked into my bedroom and pointed out a wrinkle. Point 4. Polishing silverware regularly. Ah, silverware. I remember the days when I would sit at the dining table for hours, polishing every fork, knife, and spoon until they gleamed like tiny mirrors. For me, it wasn't just about maintaining silverware. It felt like honoring tradition. These were pieces passed down through generations, used on special occasions to make family gatherings feel elegant and memorable. But here's the thing. No one at those gatherings ever noticed how shiny the silverware was. They were too busy enjoying the meal, laughing at shared stories, and savoring the time spent together. The sparkle of the forks and spoons? It just wasn't what made the moment special. Eventually, I started to see polishing silverware for what it really was. A task that drained my energy without adding much value. Sure, I still love using those beautiful pieces, but I've learned that they don't need to shine like jewels every single time. Now, I reserve my silverware for truly special occasions, family holidays, milestone celebrations, or dinner parties where a touch of elegance feels just right. And instead of spending hours polishing before each event, I use a simple cleaning cloth to wipe away any tarnish. It takes just minutes, and the silver still looks beautiful enough to grace the table. For everyday meals, my stainless steel cutlery does the job perfectly. It's durable, easy to maintain, and just as functional without the fuss. This shift has been a game changer. I no longer feel the pressure to present a perfectly polished table. Instead, I focus on what really matters, the people gathered around it, the laughter, the conversations, and the memories we create together. Those are what make the meal special, not the gleam of the silverware. Point 5. Moving furniture to vacuum weekly. For years, I believed that dust hiding under furniture was some kind of silent enemy that needed to be battled every week. I'd push and pull heavy couches, tables, and cabinets, determined to vacuum every hard-to-reach corner. It felt like a never-ending war against dust bunnies, and honestly, it left me exhausted. But then I realized something. How often do you actually look under your furniture? Unless you're crawling on the floor, chances are you don't. And neither does anyone else. The weekly ritual of moving heavy furniture wasn't just tiring. It was unnecessary. Sure, dust collects over time, but it doesn't build up so quickly that it needs constant attention. Now, I've embraced a smarter approach. Instead of moving everything around every week, I let technology lend a hand. Investing in a robotic vacuum cleaner has been a game changer. This little device glides effortlessly under furniture, tackling those hard-to-reach areas that used to demand so much effort. It's efficient, thorough, and saves me hours of backbreaking work. If you don't have a robotic vacuum, don't worry, there's still no need to stress. A deep cleaning session every few months is more than enough to keep things fresh and tidy. During those times, you can move the furniture, vacuum underneath, and wipe down any hidden surfaces. In between, A regular vacuuming routine around the visible areas will do the trick. The key is to stop feeling like you have to wrestle with furniture every week. Dust doesn't control your home, and it certainly doesn't define its cleanliness. Let go of that pressure and instead, focus on a cleaning rhythm that fits your life and energy levels. These days, I spend the time I used to waste on moving furniture doing things that truly matter. Whether it's calling a loved one, reading a good book, or simply sitting down with a cup of tea, I've reclaimed those moments for myself. And you can too. Point 6. Organizing your pantry monthly. Let's face it, the pantry can often feel like a black hole of chaos. You start with everything neatly arranged, but before you know it, things get shuffled around. Items pile up, and suddenly, finding that one can of soup feels like an excavation project. I used to believe that organizing my pantry every single month was the only way to keep it under control. I'd spend hours pulling everything off the shelves, checking labels, straightening jars, and making sure every item had its perfect place. It felt satisfying in the moment, but the truth was, it didn't take long for the pantry to fall back into disarray. And let's be honest, did it really matter if the cans weren't perfectly lined up or the crackers weren't on the right shelf? These days, I've adopted a much simpler and more practical approach. Instead of obsessing over a perfectly organized pantry, I focus on functionality. I've divided my pantry into clear sections: grains, canned goods, snacks, spices, and so on. Each category has its own designated space, and I use clear bins and baskets to keep things tidy and accessible. These bins make it easy to grab what I need without having to sift through a pile of items. I also stopped reorganizing every month. Now, I do a quick check every few weeks to make sure nothing is expired or spilled, but unless something really needs attention, I let it be. Once a year, I dedicate a bit more time to a deep clean, wiping down shelves and making sure everything is still in good condition. This annual routine keeps my pantry functional without consuming my time or energy. What I've learned is that the pantry doesn't need to look like a magazine photo to serve its purpose. It's a working space, and as long as it's organized enough for me to find what I need, that's enough. Letting go of the need for perfection has been so freeing. Point 7. Washing walls monthly. The walls. Those broad canvases of our home that we rarely notice until something spills or smudges them. I used to think that washing my walls every month was a necessity. Armed with a bucket of soapy water and a sponge, I'd go room by room, scrubbing every inch as though a spotless wall was the ultimate sign of a well-maintained home. But let me ask you this. How often do you really notice your walls? Unless there's a visible smudge near a light switch or a scuff from moving furniture, they probably look fine most of the time. And yet, I spend hours every month scrubbing and wiping, leaving myself physically drained and wondering why I was doing it in the first place. Eventually, I realized that this habit was more about chasing perfection than necessity. Walls don't need that much attention, and the truth is, a little dust or an occasional mark doesn't make your home any less welcoming. Now, instead of monthly wall washing marathons, I've adopted a much simpler approach. I focus on spot cleaning. If I notice fingerprints around the light switches or a stubborn mark in the hallway, I'll grab a damp cloth and take care of it. For the rest of the walls, I let them be. Once a year, during my spring cleaning, I'll tackle the walls more thoroughly, giving them a good wipe down as part of a larger cleaning effort. But the idea of scrubbing every surface every month? That's long behind me. This change has saved me so much time and energy. My home still feels clean and inviting, and I no longer dread the exhausting ritual of wall washing. I've realized that the comfort of a home comes from the warmth it provides, not from spotless walls. Point 8. Hand washing dishes every night. For years, I had a routine. After every meal, I'd head to the sink and hand wash every single dish. Plates, glasses, forks, even the pots and pans from dinner. It all went through the same process. I convinced myself this was the only way to keep a clean and organized kitchen. And while it felt satisfying at the time, it also drained a lot of my energy, especially after a long day. Standing at the sink for an hour every evening became a chore I dreaded. Scrubbing, rinsing, drying, and carefully putting everything away seemed like an endless loop, and I realized I was spending so much of my time on something that could be simplified. That's when I finally embraced my dishwasher. At first, I felt like I was cutting corners, but then I realized it wasn't about laziness. It was about working smarter, not harder. Loading the dishwasher after a meal takes just a few minutes, and it does all the heavy lifting while I can relax or enjoy time with my loved ones. The best part? It doesn't just save time. It saves water and energy compared to hand washing. Now, I only hand wash a few items that really need it, like a stubborn pot with burnt food or a delicate piece that can't go in the dishwasher. Everything else goes straight into the machine. When the cycle is done, it takes just a few minutes to unload and put everything away. My kitchen stays clean, and I no longer feel like I'm chained to the sink every night. For those who don't have a dishwasher, I suggest breaking the task into smaller loads. Wash a few dishes right after meals instead of letting them pile up, and use a drying rack to save yourself the trouble of toweling everything off. It's about finding a rhythm that feels manageable without taking over your evening. Point 9. Replacing light bulbs immediately. There was a time when a burned-out light bulb in my home felt like an emergency. The moment a bulb went out, I'd feel an almost urgent need to replace it right away. I'd grab a stepladder, rummage through drawers for a spare bulb, and fix it as if the world couldn't go on without that light. But then I started to ask myself, why was I making such a fuss over something so minor? A single burned-out bulb doesn't stop the rest of the lights from working, and it certainly doesn't ruin the comfort of a room. Yet I was treating every burned-out bulb as if it were a catastrophe. These days, I've adopted a much calmer approach. If a light bulb burns out in a high-use area like the kitchen or living room, I'll make it a priority to replace it within a day or two. But for bulbs in less-used spaces, like a spare room, hallway, or even an outdoor fixture, I let it wait until it's convenient. The key is having spare bulbs on hand, so I'm not scrambling to find one when the time comes. This simple shift has saved me from unnecessary stress. I no longer feel like I have to drop everything to fix a small inconvenience. Instead, I've embraced the idea that some tasks can wait, and that's perfectly okay. Another thing I've learned is to keep track of when my bulbs are likely to need replacing. Many energy-efficient bulbs last for years, so I don't worry about them burning out as often. When I do replace them, I take a moment to check other nearby fixtures and see if any are due for a change. That way, I can take care of multiple bulbs at once and save myself time down the road. Point 10. Washing rugs and throw blankets regularly. I used to believe that keeping my home fresh and clean meant washing every rug and throw blanket regularly. Every few weeks, I'd go through the effort of rolling up heavy rugs, dragging them outside, and giving them a deep clean. Throw blankets would follow, taking up multiple loads in the washer and dryer. It felt satisfying at first, seeing everything look fresh and new, but over time, I realized how much energy I was pouring into a task that didn't need such frequent attention. Rugs and throw blankets are meant to be lived with. They're there to provide warmth, comfort, and functionality, not to be showpieces that always look perfect. The more I washed them, the more I noticed that they started to lose their plushness, their vibrant colors, and, quite frankly, their charm. Now, I take a much simpler approach. Instead of washing them frequently, I spot clean rugs as needed, focusing on areas with spills or stains. A quick shake outdoors can remove dust and crumbs, and a light vacuum helps them stay fresh in between deeper cleanings. For throw blankets, I only wash them when they truly need it, like after a spill or if they've been used heavily during colder months. This change has saved me so much time and effort. My rugs and blankets last longer, and they still look and feel great without all the overwashing. A little imperfection, like a wrinkle here or a slight fade there, adds to their charm. They're not meant to be flawless. They're meant to be cozy, inviting, and well-loved. Point 11. Waxing floors every few weeks. Waxing floors. Oh, how I used to think it was the secret to a well-kept home. Every few weeks, I'd roll up my sleeves and dedicate an entire day to scrubbing, buffing, and applying layers of wax until my floors gleamed like a mirror. It felt like an accomplishment, but by the time I was done, I'd be left exhausted, sore, and wondering why I was putting myself through all that effort. Over time, I realized that constantly waxing my floors wasn't just unnecessary, it was outdated. Most modern flooring materials don't even need regular waxing, and for those that do, once or twice a year is more than enough. Doing it every few weeks wasn't just hard on me. It was hard on the floors, too. The buildup of wax made them look dull over time and required even more effort to fix. Now, I've completely changed how I approach floor care. Instead of waxing frequently, I focus on the basics, sweeping or vacuuming regularly to keep dust and dirt at bay, and mopping with a gentle cleaner every couple of weeks. If I want to bring back a bit of shine, I'll save the waxing for special occasions or once a year during a deep cleaning session. This way, my floors still look beautiful without all the backbreaking work. The truth is, no one notices whether your floors are freshly waxed or not. What they'll notice is whether your home feels inviting, comfortable, and clean. And you can achieve that without spending hours on your hands and knees polishing every surface. Letting go of the need for constant waxing has freed up so much of my time and energy. Instead of worrying about how shiny my floors are, I can enjoy my home the way it's meant to be enjoyed, relaxed and stress-free. Point 12. Deep cleaning the garage or attic every few months. The garage and attic, those hidden spaces that always seem to collect more than they should. For years, I felt like they were my personal battlegrounds. Every few months, I'd steel myself for a full day of sorting, decluttering, and cleaning. Armed with trash bags and boxes, I'd dive into the chaos, determined to turn those cluttered corners into neat, organized spaces. But here's the thing. No matter how much time and effort I put into it, the clutter always seemed to creep back. The garage would fill up with tools I rarely used, old paint cans, and random odds and ends. The attic? It was a maze of forgotten decorations, boxes of memories, and things I couldn't quite bring myself to part with. It felt like no matter how hard I worked, the job was never truly done. Eventually, I realized something important. Perfection isn't the goal. These spaces are meant to be functional, not flawless. Now, instead of tackling the garage or attic in one exhausting marathon session, I take a more practical approach. I focus on small sections at a time. Maybe it's one shelf in the garage or a single box in the attic. This way, the task feels manageable and doesn't take up my entire day. I also only deep clean these spaces when there's a real need, like preparing for a big project or clearing space for something new. Another thing I've learned is to let go of things that no longer serve a purpose. Expired paint, broken tools, or decorations I haven't used in years, they all go. The more I let go, the easier it is to keep these spaces functional. Now, I don't stress over having a picture-perfect garage or attic. As long as I can find what I need when I need it, I consider that a win. And you know what? Accepting a little imperfection has brought me so much peace of mind. We've covered a lot today, haven't we? From letting go of the need to deep clean windows weekly to embracing a more relaxed approach to managing our garages and attics, it's clear that simplifying chores isn't about doing less. It's about focusing on what truly matters. Here's the thing. Life is too short to spend it chasing perfection in tasks that don't bring us joy or fulfillment. By rethinking these routines and adopting smarter, simpler approaches, we free up time and energy for the things that actually matter, like spending time with loved ones, pursuing hobbies, or simply enjoying the peace of a quiet moment. So, what's one chore you're going to simplify starting today? Maybe it's deciding to skip ironing your bed sheets or cutting back on those hours spent scrubbing baseboards. Whatever it is, I'd love to hear about it. Drop a comment below and share what you're letting go of. It might inspire someone else to do the same. If you found this video helpful, please take a moment to like it, share it with someone who could use a little encouragement, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Your support means the world to me and helps me continue creating content that makes your life just a little bit easier. Thank you for spending this time with me today. I hope you're feeling inspired to simplify, prioritize, and focus on what truly brings you happiness. Remember, your time and energy are precious. Use them wisely. Until next time, take care of yourself, enjoy your home, and keep making space for the moments that truly matter. I'll see you in the next video.